Welcome back. So we're keeping our tab on the protest and more reactions coming through. But today we'll be starting from Abuja with our first guest. Mark.
Thank you, Chamberlain. We have with us Mr. Femi Adeshina, who is a special advisor to the President on Media and Publicity. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you. Good morning.
Well, we did see the protest yesterday, and we heard the Vice President, who's the acting president now, say, "We hear you loud and clear." But aside that, a lot of Nigerians had wondered whether or not the government was going to make room, was going to ensure that they were able to exercise freely their right to protest. What's your reaction, or what's your take on, the initial fears, the anxiety that had, come on the trail of the police saying that they had intelligence that this protests were going to be hijacked, which a lot of Nigerians did not quite believe?
No, the fears were unnecessary. They were unwarranted. Because in a democracy, protest is legitimate. That has been established all over the world, and Nigeria cannot be different. If Nigerians want to protest, they can. But then, the security agencies also have responsibilities. The responsibilities include making sure law and order does not break down. So while the citizens can protest, the law enforcement agencies also can ensure that law and order does not break down. And that's what we saw playing out yesterday, and it played out beautifully. We didn't see any tear gas fired. We didn't see live bullets. We didn't see anybody brutalized. So both sides.
A lot of people believe that this protest perhaps would have been stronger in terms of the number of people who turned out, but for the fact that, one of the star faces withdrew, Two-Face in Libya, withdrew from, this protest because some people perceive that he was intimidated and bullied into it.
Well, only Two-Face can say. I will not be able to say that. I don't know. I didn't interface with him, and I don't also speak for him. It's he that can say why he pulled out.
But then, it does reflect back on the government, because we've heard that, when government sometimes doesn't want certain things to happen, then we begin to hear that, this protest have the possibility of being hijacked, even though in the very first instance, one of the reasons the police will tell you to come and tell them about a protest is so that your protest will not be hijacked, so that they can provide protection in the first instance.
Yes, but did you also notice that that protest was going to be hijacked? You already had one governor from the Southwest who has been very critical, saying he will join.
He's a Nigerian.
Yes, he has a right to protest. But then you also know that when governors begin to join things like that, they have money to also mobilize people, and they have money to cause confusion, which can lead to mayhem if we're not careful.
So you don't exactly think, you don't mind also, remove the fact that perhaps government also try to ensure that because they had those kinds of fears, this protest was maybe weakened in some ways.
It's a question of perhaps now. So we shall never know, except we have concrete evidence to show that government weakened that protest. We will never know. It's a question of perhaps.
Well, let's also quickly look at this. I don't know if you've read your brother's article, Ruben Abati, writing about the two faces of Two-Face Libya, and making very strong reference to what could have been playing out in government circles. Let me quickly read this out. It says, the Nigerian government was, of course, unhappy with the planned protest, and the idea of it created enormous confusion in Abuja and Aso Rock. While the office of the acting president spoke about the right to protest and the government not having anything against the expression of fundamental human rights, the office of the president on vacation made it very clear that the would-be protesters are enemies of the government of the day and sore losers. Did you see that part of the article?
I saw it. Ruben has served in government.
Yes.
In fact, the position I hold now, he was the one who held it last. So he knows how government operates.
That's why we're not taking this lightly.
Yes. It should not be taken slightly because he has passed through this path and he knows how government operates. But then, I think that part that he says those who are protesting are sore losers is just a little bit of what was said. I recall talking about that. I gave different types of people who could be involved in that protest. One was sore losers from the last election, and I stand to be corrected. Another was people who are permanent critics. I even said if those people mistakenly get into heaven, they will criticize God. There are people like that who are permanent critics. They exist in every country. I then talked about people who are supporters of this government at the beginning and who feel that things have not gone the way they quite expected. They were also part of the protest. So for him to have just picked one group to say they were also losers, then it's not complete.
In terms of, when you put this kind of, because I know that the One Voice Nigeria movement tried to make it very clear, tried to make the reasons they were protesting very clear. And they tried to paint as much as possible that this was a protest against the system. That so far so good, they haven't seen the system work for them. They talk about how life is getting even more difficult. The prices of everyday commodities, they list them out and show you the difference from when the president took over and what it was, what it is today. And in spite of this seeming harmless issues that they bring out, which is very painful, government didn't look like it was going to empathize with them and seize the opportunity to address people in terms of what they were doing to alleviate the pains of the masses.
But I had the acting president say it yesterday, and you have reviewed it in the press this morning, saying, we hear you loud and clear. What else would somebody from government say? You have protested, you have raised your angst, and government says, we hear you loud and clear. That's on record. And that means we are doing something about it. And I also like what the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amici, said. We didn't promise to solve all the problems in 1 year. Well, 21 months precisely. No government can solve enormous problems that it inherited in 21 months. And government has a mandate, I keep saying it, that lasts for 48 months. And when you are in a long-distance race, you pace yourself, lest you burn out before you reach the mark. And that is what government is doing.
Well, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll talk a bit more on some of the issues that were raised, some of the critical issues that were raised by the protesters. In just a moment, do stay with us.